Hey everybody, it's Kelly. Welcome back to another episode of Ask a Therapist. So this is video number 4 of Pride Month. So today we are talking about label. That's right. What do you call yourself? What do other people call themselves? How do we accept labels and refuse labels? And how do we decide what label fits best? I could do an entire 30-minute video just explaining all of the labels that are out there that fit under the umbrella of the LGBTQIA+ community. I'm not going to do that because that seems like a ginormous undertaking. Instead of going into every single label that someone could accept for themselves and still fit under the queer umbrella, I am going to give some generalizations and then I'm going to talk about the psychology of labels. As human beings, we desire boundaries. We desire definition and we categorize things and we put people into sections and groups according to what makes the most sense for us. And when we do that, things make more sense. Problem is, we use our own understanding of who somebody is and what that means they do in order to make those labels and to put people into those boxes. So we very much take away the ability the other person has to figure out and reveal who they are when we put them into a category and a label as soon as we meet them. However, that's also human nature, so how do we fight that? Or should we fight it? I'm not going to answer either of those questions because here's the thing. Outside of the queer community, there is a lot of generalizing. I don't know why, but Pride Month seems to also bring out the hate in other people, which gets really frustrating and frankly exhausting for me anyway. I don't know about you, but this Pride Month has felt more exhausting than ever because I feel like I'm constantly fighting a community battle to be understood and to be validated in a month where I should maybe not have to do that quite as much. But the bigger picture issue of this is how it impacts people who are still trying to discover who they are and are watching the things that are going on. When you come into the community and you look at the labels that people have, I personally see more gatekeeping and more specifying who somebody is before they announce themselves to you than I do outside. We label ourselves for understanding of ourselves, for identity, sometimes for support purposes, for pretty much any label out there that anyone can ever accept for themselves or prescribe to someone else. There is a flip side negativity to it for other people, which makes labeling your sexual orientation or your identity very difficult because typically you have learned all of the negative things about that label before you ever learned it as an empowerment. There are a lot of labels that people have that they don't see the bad side of until later, until they've already accepted it as part of their identity. But being queer is not one of them. Due to compulsory heterosexuality, we are raised understanding that these labels are bad or unnatural or whatever it is that people use to describe how they feel about the queer community. And then once you realize that you identify in that, you have to question everything that's ever been prescribed to you in meaning. That's backwards from understanding who we are and then realizing there could be some negative assumptions about it. Nevertheless, as people, we need labels to know how to identify ourselves, or we think we do. Within the community itself, I have noticed there are a lot of situations where people are less tolerant of people not accepting labels or not fitting into the label as they expect that other person too. You've all heard me say before, I have known since I was in elementary school that I am bisexual. That has always been known to me. That also was always known to me as something that I would probably never talk about. Definitely never expect to be talking about it on the internet to all of you fine people. So here we are, I'm announcing who I am to the world. I know that when I use that label for myself, I know it is real and I know it is right and I know it is who I am, but I can't explain to you how I know. I know that other labels don't fit me, but it is through a lot of learning and talking and study and time with myself, because there was a period of time where I didn't want to tell people that was my label, mostly because of the misunderstanding about it. There are so many labels in the community that people feel the same way about. And yet we look to define and understand ourselves through those other rules, even if the rules don't apply to us. So many of you in the community will recognize this scenario. Maybe it's your story too. Woman and man are together. Woman realizes that she has attraction outside of that particular man, maybe other men, maybe other women. Whatever comes up for her is what comes up for her. So she begins to explore. As she begins to explore who she is, she uses the label of bisexual or pansexual. And years, months, maybe weeks, I don't know, later, through experience and talking to people and understanding herself even better, she is using the label of lesbian. Does that mean she was not bi? It doesn't mean she wasn't bi. It means that through understanding of herself, she accepts a different label now. That doesn't mean anything. Just for the record, you can be a woman who is exclusively sexually attracted to women and never call yourself a lesbian. You can also be somebody who calls themselves a lesbian and experience attraction to men. The idea that anyone's label is simple is absolute crap. And I'm telling you this because if we could just get out of each other's way, we'd be able to get out of our own way too then, by the way, and understand that labels are a snapshot of who we are at a point in time, and that's it. If you are currently a member of the queer community, did you ever call yourself straight? Because if you did call yourself straight, and then as you got to know yourself better, you began to realize that wasn't your label, you should understand someone using different labels as they change how they know themselves, because it's the same thing. The function of labels, inside or outside of the community, is to help people to verbalize who they are. If I have a label, then I can tell somebody who I am in a common language. There's commonality there. I had someone say to me once, what was actually said to me was by somebody who didn't know I was part of the queer community, and they said,
holy cow, if these people want to be accepted, stop changing things every year, because enough's enough already.
I didn't want to get into that with her at that moment, and so we did not. But it stuck with me the same way that when I'm on social media and I see people say
LGBT, LMNOPQ
group or
the alphabet soup.
When people outside the community use the term alphabet soup, that is derogatory, okay? When you add random letters that you know aren't there, that's derogatory. That is using labels in an inappropriate and honestly homophobic kind of way. The problem with labels is we need them as much as we hate them. They lead us down these paths of negativity and misunderstanding of one another, and also help us to understand each other when they're used correctly. So this is my point. I would love for us to stop prescribing labels to people and asking them who they are when it is our information that we need to know. We are all as individuals entitled to reveal information about ourselves as we wish to reveal it. Now, some situations do mandate it faster than others. So if you go by a different name than what is your legal name, you're going to have to tell people that if you want them to call you that, right? There should never be a situation in which you feel like you have to label yourself in order to gain validity. There are many people within our community that have been harmed by the labels that others find empowering. And if that's the case, they shouldn't accept that label then. It is absolutely fine to not have a label. It is also absolutely fine to decide that you need one. What is not fine is for us, any of us, to insist that other people follow the rules that we apply to ourselves. Another person asked me one time, just in conversation, the labels that people use, how they come about. And really the best answer that I have for that is common terms come about after we recognize the need for that common language. It's not in order to have something in place. We're looking at, we have an entire group of people who have very similar circumstances and experiences, and we are not identifying them as a group, and that's not okay. Do you see the difference? Label-wise, claiming a label as your own can be so freeing. So can shrugging off a label that carries too much baggage for you or doesn't quite encapsulate who you are as a person. It doesn't make you less or more to want a label or to not want one. The problem, again, comes up when we expect that everyone else's experience with the world around them matches our own experience with the world around us. It won't. There is no one else on the planet like you. What you need to understand is any label that you want, you should keep. And any label that you don't want, throw it away. You do not need to credential yourself to know who you are. You don't need to explain yourself to people who are bent on misunderstanding you. You have a responsibility to yourself to understand who you are. The level at which you understand who you are is also your own business. Those of us who are in the community have a responsibility to kindly and gently call one another out when we are expecting other people to fall in line with how we understand the queer experience. Okay. Thank you so much for being here today. That ends week 4 of Pride Month. I'll be back next week with our final Pride topic. Don't forget to like and comment and subscribe. Share these videos if you find them helpful to you. And I can't wait to talk to you next week. And until then, take care of yourselves and each other.